white supremacists, QAnon Kool-Aid drinkers who dared to break into the capital of our nation in a dangerous, adult-sized imitation of schoolyard bullies who didn't get the lunch money this time they were used to shaking down other kids for. We remember the footage, the speech by Trump at the white supremacist rally he held, where he sounded like a football coach at halftime, telling his team they needed to show who's boss, encouraging the brainwashed minions of his narcissistic ego to march to the Capitol, spewing forth the worn-out lies about how the election was rigged. We remember the footage of the illegally armed domestic terrorists breaching the Capitol, a feat that has only been done once before in the history of our nation, in the Battle of 1814 by the British, who then sacked and burned the place down. The photos of armed white terrorists breaking into offices, desecrating the chambers of Congress, many wearing t-shirts that boldly proclaimed Civil War, January 6, 2021. Acknowledging that this was not an impulsive moment, a crowd who was taken over by their own rhetoric. This was clearly a planned, methodological event that had been openly discussed in hate group forums for weeks. We remember how even with such stark evidence of what happens when you fuel the outrageous lies of a narcissistic bully for political gain, people still voted against the certification of the votes, still questioned the validity of the already debunked claims. For what gain? There was no chance in hell that this carnage would be any...
Switch hands, yeah.
Thank you.
Defer the mouthpiece, what if you hold the microphone pointed
Okay. Moving right along. We remember that there are people who continue to serve the self-aggrandizing posturing by political leaders who have become so drunk on the power they had in the previous regime that they can no longer think rationally or act truthfully. We remember that, and we will never forget. No matter how those who still support the bald-faced lies of a desperate loser continue to try to control the narrative, we will remember. And I want to remind our Congress people of the oath that they took. The oath that they took was to support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Hey.
Not the false inflammatory rhetoric of the loser. They took an oath to defend this nation from all enemies, foreign and domestic, without mental reservation or purpose of evasion. And for those who betray that oath, we will do everything within our power to legally, peacefully remove you from office at the next election. And this, and the second thing we're gathered here today to say is never again. Never again will we allow the waves of tyranny to threaten the shores of liberty. Never again. Never again will we allow our government to be infiltrated by enemies of the state. Never again. We are here to say that we will not remain silent in the face of ongoing attacks on democracy. We demand voting rights legislation be enacted to combat the rising tide of voter suppression happening in many states. Our Congress must act swiftly and decisively to staunch the tide of authoritarianism that is threatening to overwhelm our nation. We are calling on our legislators to uphold their solemn oath of office by passing the Freedom to Vote Act, the Protecting Our Democracy Act, the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, and DC statehood. We declare that we remember and we will act to ensure our democracy holds fast, even in the midst of domestic terrorism and tyranny. We are not going away. And we will not sit down or slow down or shut up or give up or go away until we have secured liberty and justice for all.